station break, okay? And thanks to Elam and Nafis, I'm in this sharing some things with them as a result of some of our travels, particularly last week. And last week we were at the Mosque, Muslim American Society and ICNA convention. And they were 12,000 strong, 12,000, okay? But the president of the Mosque Cares and the ministry is part of the USCMO, and that stands for the U.S. United States Council of Muslim Organization. I should say major Muslim organizations. It was 8 of these large communities that started this. And we've been working on it like 3-4 years. But every time one of the major organizations has a convention or conference, then the council meets. Okay, and what I'm talking about is the executive directors, the chairman of the boards, the vice presidents and presidents of all these organizations, the brass, are there. And following Dr. Lynn, I have to say that when we had the inaugural banquet a year ago, last June, for the USCMO, we had a list of speakers, and we worked on that for a year or more, who were going to be the speakers. They wanted to have a nice mix, the whole 9 yards, make sure you had some African Americans represented and some women represented, and so that's what happened. So we there in DC, Capitol Hill, okay? Big banquet, legislators there, intelligence community, all the big shots that were there. So Sister Aisha Mustafa, the editor of the Muslim Journal, which they all knew, she was scheduled to be one of the speakers. So she had problems getting out of her connection flight, weather conditions, and she couldn't make it. So we shared the information with Warren, the Deen. They were working out the schedule. And we were at his table, Dr. Lynn, her husband, and other members of the Mosque here were at the table. And Warren, the Deen, he's like his dad. He just smoothly said, well, Dr. Lynn is here. If she's willing, she can make some comments in place of Sister Aisha. And you see Dr. Lynn, she's a soldier, she's a warrior. She won't say, no, I passed. She said, I got it. So she had about 20-30 minutes to get her stuff together. And let me tell you, she rocked. She knocked it out the park. She made the keynote speaker look like Mickey Mouse. And I'm not trying to be facetious. She really, they had a woman MC on the program, but that was it. And let me tell you, these big shots, why?
The key is she impressed that crowd.
She impressed that crowd, that's what he said. And I'm talking legislators, the big everything. But their wives too. They saw this sister get up there, this African American sister, and blow that hard with a lot of information and education on this few minutes notice. They were like, hey, okay, we got, and the sisters applauded, and they were like, we got to have more of our sisters involved. They were so happy about that. And we were too, that she comes from our community, okay? Also, there was 2 of the only Congress persons in Congress, Keith Ellison and Andre Carson, from our community, okay? So anyway, it's just so beautiful till, and I would say, I was telling Nafis yesterday, this past weekend, I said, man, your wife is responsible for a lot of these sisters in these other communities getting promotions because they're pushing their women forward now where they weren't there before, okay? And that's also a credit to this community. But how I got myself in this was I was just talking about some of the highlights because we've been doing so much. Even me, I'm on some executive boards and all kind of stuff that I would have never, ever dreamed. Trust me. International people, it is no way in the world I would ever dream of being in these positions and spots and rubbing elbows with the people I'm rubbing elbows with, okay? And so I was, we were talking about how Imam had told us how, before prayer, if you wake up in the morning, how you can really communicate with Allah. Here I am laying up there thinking at 2 or 3 in the morning, and I'm just thinking, oh Allah, you have ascended me so high into the heavens. I'm already in Jannah. I'm already there. And Imam told us that. He said, it starts on this side. I'm like saying, man, we at every one of these meetings, they had a big meeting, and Andre Carson was a keynote speaker at their banquet this past weekend, and I'll come back to that. But they have the big private meetings where all the big shots meet. We sitting in this meeting, And they have delegations coming in from out of the country, and they had the delegation from Turkey there. And to hear these big shots from these American major Muslim organizations sit there and say, when they come to introduce Warith Deen Mohammed and the ministry and the mosque cares, and they saying, I would have never dreamed I heard this, because we battled with them over the years since the transition in 1975. These brothers here, these brothers, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Nation of Islam, and then Imam Warith Deen Muhammad, and now his son, Imam Warith Deen Muhammad II, they are responsible for establishing al-Islam in America. And I'm sitting there like, wow, I would have never ever dreamed that. And they said over and over, this community, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, the Nation of Islam, Imam Warith Deen Muhammad, and now Warith Deen Muhammad II, this community is responsible for establishing al-Islam in America. So I'm like, man, I'm way up there. Okay, I just wanted to share that. And it's so much. We was here the whole weekend, so I shared a lot. I was talking a lot of stuff. They were like, you need to tell the community this. Somebody said, well, alhamdulillah, I probably need to write more articles, but that's tough for me. I'm not really a public speaker. I'm not really a writer, but I'm your brother. I represent community service, and you all are community service. We're here to serve. In fact, I see Imam Haji Mohammed out there, and he performed a wedding ceremony here Friday evening, okay? It was outstanding, major dawah, because most of the people that was with the bride and groom were Christians. He did a wonderful job, it was outstanding, major dawah. But at one point he said, after he finished it, he says, look, you guys can call me Imam if you want to, but that's not my name. I want to get this right, because he always teaches. He said, Imam is a service. He said, what I'm doing right now? He said, that's a service, now I'm Imam. He said, my name is Haji Muhammad. You can call me Imam. He said, but when I'm performing that service, I'm Imam. Other than that, I'm your brother. And I'm your brother too, Hafiz Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum.
Andre Carson.
Oh, thank you. Hey, that's my brother too. We almost like twins. We've been rolling together. Warith Deen put us in this thing. We've been working. And it's work. He got a tough volunteer army, and we ain't playing. Andre Carson was a keynote speaker. And before he came up, they do this fundraiser. The guy comes up and says, hey, we got 30 minutes before the congressman comes up, and we want to raise $1 million. And he starts off, the first he asked for was 10 grand. How many for 10 grand? It took him a few minutes, and then finally he had one. He said, I don't have much time. I don't want to take the congress time. He said, next I'm asking for 5 grand. And then he kept on. To make a long story short, they ended up raising over 190 grand in 30 minutes. And I was saying to the boss, I was saying, wow, it's 100 people in here, okay? And if the dinners cost them 100 apiece, that's only 10 grand. That's how they roll. We gonna be there as well. We were there once before, we'll get it back. Andre Carson was so eloquent. He was really speaking to them. They want to do a super PAC, okay? And later on, when we had the private meeting with the big shots again, and we go in the room, he saw me first, then he saw Warith Deen. He said, man, I didn't know you was out there. He said, man, if I didn't know you was out here, I'd have been. I said, no, you did just what was right, because they brought you here, you should, He had 2 European Americans on his staff, very, very sharp, And I was saying that to say that Imam said, we Americans. He said, we are Americans. We didn't buy no ticket to come here on no plane or no boat, so we really are Americans. But if you want to identify us and get some traits, you can say African American, but really Americans. Well, these 2 European American girls, they were like sharp. We in the meeting, Andre Carson kept on telling them about Warith Deen Muhammad II. You need to get with him, you need to take pictures of him, etc. He went on to say, because they want to do a super PAC, and that's what they had him there for. They want to do a super PAC. So he was telling them how they should do it, and he deferred to the women here. But he was just saying how, what do you need to do? We have the council, the USCMO council, is doing a lot of things. Busy. Imam Warith Deen Muhammad II and his wife Robin, they are busy. There's so much coming in from all over the world, everywhere, so much stuff. And the council is like a coordinating council so that America is kind of speaking, with one voice, okay? But they were talking about the super PAC, what they need to do. In April of 2015, we're having Advocacy Day up on Capitol Hill, where we're gonna have teams from all our organizations going up on Capitol Hill. We're gonna have some practice and some training, but we're gonna be meeting with Congress people, et cetera, to let them know what we want and think, et cetera, so they can feel us. And when Andre Carson was telling them, he said, listen, let me tell you something. This is in the private meeting. He said, yeah, I know y'all got Advocacy Day coming up. He said, look, when you come there, don't be coming in all them robes. He said, and bring some women with you. Bring some sisters with you. And he pointed at the table now, and he said, like these stand here. Not just any sisters, but some very intelligent sisters like the one here. And he pointed to the sister, Rula Alush, who is now the national chair for CARE. Now, she was, for years, the executive director of the Cincinnati chapter of CARE. Now, she's recently been promoted to the national chair of the board for CARE, okay? And I give Dr. Lee and Mohammed credit for that as well, because I'm telling you, it's activity out there. So Carson was saying, bring some of these sisters, bring some women, get them more involved, because they're a little different than us. We're ahead of a lot of these communities in a lot of ways. We don't see ourselves. And I'm telling you, it's just like at the inaugural banquet when Aisha Mustafa couldn't make it, and Deen Mohammed, they consider that his community, and they come and ask. Trust me, when these big shots come to him, and it's like your wish is our command. I'm telling you now, y'all may not want to hear this. They are like, whatever he say, that's it. I'm telling you. They knew his dad, now they know him. And one of the things Andre Carson said when we got in the private room, he was like, man, you just like your dad. Give you an example, and I'm gonna get out of here. They were talking about, what about the growth? Now they got 12,000 strong, and this is Turkey, delegation coming from Turkey. And they're Malcolm fanatics. Well, how's your growth? How's your growth? And how's the status now? He like his dad. He was like, well, it's like the seasons. He would have done an analogy of the seasons. This blows him away, because he's talking to their soul. All that other stuff they're trying to hear or wanting to say, that's how he coming. Another scenario, we're still working on the bylaws, etc. And, okay, 1 minute. And because now with 8 founding organizations, they're opening up, other organizations want to join, so we're tweaking the bylaws. And to give you a good example, the term veto. We got the head of the AMP, American Muslim from Palestine. He's also a UC Berkeley professor in another college. And they wrestled with the word veto. Oh, it's too harsh. We shouldn't, they came up with another term to replace veto. And I'm like, man, sometimes you gotta just drop the hammer. And Deen was like, it's kind of like the body. You got all the organs, and Dr. Lynn talked good about the body. He said, you got all these organs in the body to make up the body, and sometimes the body can really put pressure on the mind. He said, but the mind, the head is the head. So the organs can put enough pressure on the head to even influence the head, but in the final analysis, it's the head. He's just like his father. I know a lot of folks don't understand that, but I'm gonna tell you. So I'm just thankful to Allah. I would have never dreamed I'd have been in this position. Rolling with this young man is just unbelievable. And like Imam said, I remember they used to say, we can't stop now. Then eventually he changes to, they can't stop us now. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Oh, Eden was telling me to bring up the president of the Mosque here, and the Ministry of Imam Deen Mohammed, Imam Deen Mohammed II.